All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Stump the Checker version 3 class today. This is an interactive class. So as I have a variety of topics that I have kind of in the queue. However, if you've got something on your mind, a particular item that you've been working on, you're like, why is this working this way? Feel free to bring those topics up and we'll prioritize those. So I'll start with this particular lesson. We'll take a little pause, see if anyone has something that they want to bring up. We'll address that one, and then we'll move into each item topic by topic. So feel free to leave yourselves unmuted so that I get some feedback as we're going. And I don't mean like a feedback loop, like if we're starting to create some kind of an audio problem, but just feedback so that I can hear your replies as well. Okay, so the first topic I want to check in is the zipper unit study. We brought this one up at the engineering meeting, and the primary focus there was about how to build the families. I want to go into slightly more depth here as far as how we're going to set this up so that it works for takeoffs. So I'm going to re-summarize what we're talking about from the beginning. When we're doing a zipper unit, that has the ability to be able to be installed and removed in between units in the middle of a row. You know, our normal installation process is the jam unit is the last one in. Well, a zipper unit has special vertical mullions that allow you to take an intermediate unit and take it in and out of the opening. It's used for several reasons. One of them is that sometimes there's a leave-out bay on a building. So on a curtain wall, the leave-out bay will sometimes be where the man lift is. So during construction, there's basically an elevator that it's attached to the outside of the building. And then once all of the TI work and whatever the components of the building are done, and you're ready to fill in those areas, you might use zipper units in order to fill in that man lift bay. So the way that the zipper units work is this first unit is a split mullion on one side, typical verticals, and then it's a zipper. Then this unit on the right side of this area is a zipper mullion here, and then it's a split mullion on this side. So that last unit that installs, this unit 3, is a zipper mullion on both sides. And the way that we see that laid out in the details is that you have a split mullion, a zipper. Over on unit 2, it's a zipper to split mullion, and then it's zipper to zipper. We had a recent discussion with Bob, and he let us know that in most cases, strip window units are set from the inside of the building. With that being the case, you need to be able to get this last unit in without the unit interfering with the other units that are adjacent to it. You have an existing split mullion to zipper unit on both sides of this opening. That's the unit 1 and 2. And they both have the vertical face covers installed. With the zipper unit being the last one to come into place, that's going to slide in from the back and it needs to clear. So what you'll see is that the attached vertical face covers are applied on the units that are already set. This unit, as it installs, has the clearance to go in, and these face covers, if you try to apply them to the zipper to zipper unit, for example, it wouldn't work from setting it from the inside because the face covers would hit the adjacent vertical mullions that are already in place. One of the other key factors for takeoff that we discussed with Bob was that the horizontal face stop logic We were debating on if that needed some special considerations because of the nature of the unit coming in. Would it need some extra clearance? Would it need the gap on the opposite side of normal? And what Bob told us was that we can use the normal horizontal face cover logic in order to make these units work correctly. We do not need to do any special adjustments. The way that looks for us then is on the unit assembly drawing, we'll have the normal 16th inch gap on the split mullion to zipper, no gap here. Then on the zipper to zipper, you'll have the 16th inch gap on this face cover on this unit that gets installed from the inside. One of the factors for us here is on our unit assembly drawing, we'll need to be careful how we call out the offset for this horizontal face stop to make sure that it's in the right position when that unit's installed. The field may have some special techniques that they use in order to get those units in, but as far as the fabrication and the unit assembly go, we can use our standard logic. Then the next unit over, we'd have the zipper mullion to the split mullion. The normal 16th inch gap applies on this side of the zipper mullion. That's how that the strip window connection is going to work. We talked earlier that the coordination is the key part of this. In this case, if that strip window is set from the inside, because of the nature of the construction, maybe it's a leave out bay, then these details would work as shown. However, if for some reason this was like a medical office building, and the reason that this had a zipper mullion connection in the first place was to be able to get an MRI machine in and out of the building in the future, they may want to be able to get those units out from the exterior. If that was the case, we would want this to actually follow the setting from the exterior model, which is on the next page. So let me take a slight aside here. Quentin, you were looking into this for a current project. Did you get any results on that yet?
Yeah, I meant to ask you about that, Bill, because yeah, I haven't considered the part that you had mentioned that the idea is that they might want to take this unit out after the building's already built and everything's already installed, in which case, yeah, they might be from the exterior. So I don't know if it's from the exterior or the interior. I guess that's something that we still need to look into. I know when I talked to Tim, yeah, he basically agreed that, yeah, these don't need to be at the end of the pallet schedule because it'll be, it won't be installed at the end. It'll just be able to be removed. That's the purpose of the zipper mullion in this case. But yeah, I guess we will need to follow up and figure out if this is meant to be installed or removed and reinstalled from the exterior or the interior, because yeah, that'll make a difference as to how we build these units.
Yes, okay, very good. And so for the curtain wall, I'll skip all of the detailed study because we talked about that on that first page. I'll summarize it in that the curtain wall units are set from the outside of the building. So the logic of which units have the face covers installed is opposite than if the unit's set from the inside. So here you would have the last unit installed is the zipper unit, the number 3, has the exterior vertical covers installed on both sides of the zipper mullion. So the unit 1 and the unit 2, those zipper units do not have the exterior face covers installed so that you have the clearance to be able to install this one at the end. Okay. All right. Any additional questions or notes about the zipper? And Pedro, anything that I left out based on your discussions with Bob?
No, perfect. I think that question should be brought up as to when are we trying to take this unit out, like Quentin said. In this case, we're going to install it and then later on in the future come back. So that's a big question to ask the field, right?
Yep. And that may not be one that shows up on the pre-takeoff meeting notes. That would be a great place to capture that question. We should try to design it into the weekly drafting if we can, but at the very least, we always capture these gotchas at that point. And that's another one of our lessons for today too, right? The Stump the Checker. What do I do if I got stuck on this one thing one time and I want to make sure it doesn't happen again? Well, the answer is you put it on the pre-takeoff meeting notes. That way you capture that for the next occurrence. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Why does that 42 gasket look like that if you are sliding the unit in and out?
Let's see, which one are you looking at, Chris? You want me to
It's
zoom in on the detail part?
It's the 42 gasket on the zipper mullion.
The double bulb gasket. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the compressed version. But if it's not
Yes.
compressed, it's like a circle.
It is like a circle, yes.
But is it more like a bulb that's front and back? If it's gonna be installed from the inside or the outside and not compressed like that. I think it looks like that if you install it left to right. But if you
Yeah, there'll be
slide
one
it,
in the back and one in the front because the one will push the other one back if they're expanded, right?
yeah, I think that's what these details should. The gasket should show it like that.
Yeah, it should still work. It'll just look a little bit different. The way that they're kind
Yes.
of going to get smash themselves together from one in the front and one in the back.
So the answer to that is really that it's just a drafting picture of how the parts are actually designed to work on the system, and it doesn't reflect what's going to happen in the reality. So as we know from so many different factors, shop drawing details are a representation of what we're supposed to do, but they don't reflect everything that happens, and especially not in the physical reality of it. So, but that would be, something that would be interesting to see. Maybe if we developed some kind of a note on the installation manual, if we built out this condition, might be a good little pointer there too. So, okay, excellent. Good stumper, Chris. Nice one.
Didn't stump you, so it's
now-
no good.
Chris, your concern will be that if we have two bubbles, one is gonna push, actually the unit, as is the unit that is coming from outside and is going in, is going to push that. It's gonna push the bubble that is attached to the unit 3, and then the unit 2 is gonna push it. Exactly. Actually,
kind of like
the other
that.
way. Okay, the pink one is the one that is coming from outside, right? That one is the yes, that's
Yeah.
what it's called. No, the other way, the way that you had it first.
Like
There
that.
you go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so as this goes in, it kind of puts pressure on this. It rolls it kind of toward the back. But if you have some of these surfaces that are touching, then the system should perform like it's designed to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, one of the other factors that you can't contain in shop drawings is that, let's say you do go to remove this unit in the future to switch out the medical equipment on the floor. What's the state of this gasket going to be? It's probably going to be compressed, where you've got some factor there that may make it to where you may want to try to replace that gasket before you reinstall that unit. But if you're doing like a pull out and a reinstall, it's not likely that you're going to have access to this material. All right, any other items or completely separate topics? If not, I'll move on to my next little item.
Next little item.
Next item. Okay, so recently the Checkers Kaizen did a PDCA of our Swiss. if you go to the portal and go to standard procedures, scroll down to engineering and select checking guidelines Swiss. That's going to open up the current version of the checking guidelines Swiss. I realized after I sent this that I forgot to redate it here. But what we did is we actually just replaced this Word document with the most current version. What I want to do here is just review the updates to the Swiss, because we talked about them as the PCs, but we haven't introduced them to the rest of the team yet. So I wanted to make sure that everyone got a chance to see the updates that we did to the Swiss. This is just a read-only copy. I just highlighted the areas that I wanted to review. So the first parts of the Swiss remained primarily the same, but based on feedback that we had from the Fab Tracker meeting, from discussions from the setup team, some notes that we put on the Checking Kaizen Trello board, we came up with a couple of items to review. When we're checking the unit fabrication drawings and we're actually doing the check of the unit drawings, the point came up that if there's not enough information to check an item, so let's say you've got a notch or some kind of a fab and you're not sure what it is, maybe you don't have enough of a detail to create a careful layout of it, it's important that you review this between the PC and the PE right away. That way you can clarify what has to be done and just resolve the actual issue. Because if you check this now and you put a question mark or you just circle something but don't put any notes and leave it blank, when the PE goes in later to do these updates and they call you about it and say, what do you mean by this circle without any words around it? You might be on a completely different project, a different week. Your frame of mind is completely different. And then at the moment when you saw that item that caused you to circle it or put the question mark on. So you may not know what the issue is, and you may have to go back and spend a lot of time investigating that. But what's really cool is that when we're working with Zoom, we can do a very quick chat, talk about a thing for a few seconds, get it resolved, make a note that makes sense. And then when the updates happen, they'll happen with the correct fix that you really intended. So the key here is don't just leave a question mark or a blank on there, because that doesn't benefit anybody. There's no value to making a mark like that. So the same thing goes for the PEs. If you guys are working on something and you see that, check in with us right away so that we can get that issue resolved and we don't continue to make those types of questions or comments that don't help you resolve what we're intending to see on the fab ticket. The next item that came up was that sometimes when we're checking attached parts, either in the chart or on the unit assembly drawing, etc., sometimes the parts are not actually linked. If that's the case, you can just put a little note that says not linked on it so that you recognize that that fab is not clickable. Now, in the case of a unit assembly drawing, oftentimes let's say you'll open up a vertical and you can't click on, say, the hook lug mark number to open up that hook lug. But if you go back to the unit assembly drawing, it shows up with that mark number in the chart. Oftentimes that one is clickable. So sometimes it's just a matter of how much text fits correctly in the chart. Zach's aware of this. It's a known bug issue, but there's some technical reasons why sometimes we still see that. But there's sometimes a secondary reason why a mark number may not be linked. Perhaps that part was created on an earlier version, and then it was updated, and so the mark number has changed, but the old mark number still might show up in one of the areas on the fab tickets. If that's the case, if it's not in the chart and you don't see it on the unit assembly drawing, if you know what the mark number is based on going into your checking folder, you find it by the part number, you see that that's the piece that belongs there, and that mark number, let's say it's an A1-1 showing on the chart, but when you open the fab, that same fab ticket is showing an A1-1A, and you check it and realize, yes, that's the actual part that I want to use in that condition. Well, you can check the fab for that part and then just write down the mark number that should be in the chart instead. So that's a way to just clarify what has to happen on that fab ticket. So that concept applies to unit assembly drawings, fab tickets, wherever you see those items that are linked. That should help both parties to just recognize some little factors that we see as we're doing unit checking. And let me scroll down. The next item was when we have a duplicate unit process. So we've had some projects recently where the units by week have been created and they're in the checking process. And then the next units by week is ongoing, but there's some duplicate units that, let's say your unit occurs on week 2, we're checking week 2, that unit occurs again on week 3. Well, if you haven't released week 2 yet, then we don't have a final version of that fab to go back to. So the way that Chris has the unit tracker set up is that if you try to print those duplicate units and they haven't been released, it'll pop up with this no print file to show you that they haven't been printed out as duplicates. So for the PCs, you should only check the duplicate units after they've been published from a previous release. That way you can do your visual control on what the final version is, and you don't have to go back and try to look at your markups, because if it hasn't been updated, you'd be marking up the same things over again anyway. So if you get to that condition and the previous week's units have been released, then you can request that the duplicate units be printed for your back check. So they may have skipped them over because they hadn't released week 2 yet. Well, now that week 2's done, just go back and ask for the duplicate units in that case. Okay, so that's one that we discussed for the checking Kaizen, but we hadn't addressed it. It definitely affects the PEs. So any questions about that? One of the things, so we'll go off on a slight tangent here. This ties in directly to the unit tracker. So Chris will be doing a lesson on the unit tracker coming up in 2 weeks. So I'll give you a little advertising plug, Chris.
What do you want me to say?
Just say
Please,
thanks.
please attend.
There you go. Please attend. Perfect. And then this is an existing item, but I wanted to just reiterate it because there's sometimes where we don't capture this. So we have a series of steps for archiving the key sheets after that final weekly release. So once we release that, let's say week 4 is the last week, the week 4 email goes out, then the PC and PE should get together and then follow these steps together to make sure that you move those key sheets out of the project key sheets folder, the Bluebeam session, the studio session, and then store them in the job folder. And you, at that point, when you follow these steps, you'll have that archived version that has all of your markups on it. It stores only in this very specific folder. So if you're, let's say you revisit it later because there's some door ads and you want to see, well, where were these units on the original building? Then you can go back and look at your key sheet from that folder. Okay, and this is an existing stage. I just wanted to emphasize it because it's something that happens at the end. Easy to forget if we haven't addressed it or looked at the Swiss recently. Okay. Any other questions on those? You guys eager for the next one then? All right, let's bring on the next one. So just a few Bluebeam tips. Let's say that you were doing this and you noticed that there was a gasket call out here and then there was a markup, but you thought it should have been some other gasket entirely. This happened to Chris, where he was like, somebody marked this to be this other gasket, but I think that's also wrong. If you're going to make some notes on a shop drawing set, for example, it's very easy to just put your note on here and then put something like this. All right, check gasket number. Okay, cool. And then if you move on and don't think about it, then what happens when Chris opens this and he's trying to fabricate this, but now he can't read that note that's behind there. So the point is that just make sure you're using your visual controls when you're placing notes or questions or things like that on your Bluebeam sessions, especially, so that if there's something that should be along here, you know, maybe if you place this note in such a way that, yes, you can tell that, okay, I'm covering a little bit of this dotted line, but you looked under there to make sure that there was no text box or like you're not covering up that gasket number, anything like that. Okay, so that's just a little friendly tip. The other one is that, let's say you're navigating back and forth on your shop drawings. You can always use your bookmarks and go to your pages like 221. Another way to do it, however, which we've talked about before, but this is going to lead into a couple other things. You can actually just type in the page number that you want to go to. So 219, 205, whatever the case is. Let's say I'm looking at these units on 205 and I've got my details are these one on 561A. Well, I can click on that. And let's say I go back to my, I want to look at another page. Let's say I want to look back on my page 208. And I don't see that detail on this page, so I want to type it back in. So if I type in the page number with the letter attached to it, if I just do the small letter, it doesn't work. But Pedro showed me this one. If you use the capital letter, it takes you back to that page. So if you want to navigate directly to a page that has a letter in it, use the capital letter and it'll navigate you directly there. So another fun feature on, let's go back to that elevation. Let's say we're working on these and you can see where these units occur based on the little call out on the key floor plan. So you have a sense of where these units are going to be. You can see what the grid lines are, K through J through H. In this case, it's an articulated wall. I don't have any dimensions, so I need to look at the floor plans for my dimensions. And if I'm working on this 7th floor unit here, there's actually a nice shortcut that's built into the shop drawings. So you can actually just click on this level 7 and it takes you directly there. So that's why it's also good to kind of remember which elevation you were on. Okay, we were on the 208. We can look at we can find the 208 and navigate to the grid lines that we were on. Lost track of it here. So we're on grid lines K through J. And we'll go to level 7 there. So my grid lines J through K. So it's here. So here's my elevation 4 on 208. There's my articulated wall. It tells me that I've got my 15 bays at 5'3½", and then my end bays are dimensioned independently. So I've got the 2'8" and 3/8 on this end. And then I've got this one, it actually goes back to parallel to the grid line, and it's got this 3 foot 0 and 15/32 DP to DP there. So just a couple of additional points for working in Bluebeam. Okay. Any questions on that part? I have two more Bluebeam sort of related tips I want to touch bases on.
I have a question.
Okay.
Why does Bluebeam not render that page so it's like all white? On some sheets and sometimes it doesn't do it on other sheets.
I'm not sure if I understand your question. Which part of the page are you saying is not rendered?
So like if you jump to a different page, sometimes it'll try to draw the page, but it won't. It'll just, you have to do that Control P.
Yeah, I think you have that little tip to show us in 9 o'clock that if you hit Control P to print, it'll kind of refresh that page. You know how sometimes like Bluebeam doesn't load that page.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was happening. Chris and I were looking at something earlier, and that was happening to me as well. And yeah, if you just hit the print icon when that pops up, and then you can see that it wants to render it when you hit that. So then hit cancel, and it'll render that page. Sometimes if that happens to me 2 or 3 times, I'll just go to Studio, I'll leave the session and then rejoin it. And then once I've joined it fresh, it does not do that as frequently from what I've noticed.
Yeah, a few common things too is like sometimes when it happens to me, I notice that I'm disconnected from Bluebeam too. So that's one thing to look out for.
This little icon right here.
Yeah. Or like I'll just close the document. I don't even leave the session. I close the document and it just reopen it, and that usually works too.
Yep. Okay, so let me go into a couple other tips for. So it's very common for us to be working on unit assembly drawings, and frequently I like to look at multiple things at the same time. So there's a couple of ways to do that. You can put this on the half screen like this, and then you can open up another session and put it on another side so you can view these. These are 2 independent sessions. You have independent controls for your markup tools, etc. So that's one method that works very well. Occasionally though, I'll have my shop drawings will be on my other screen. And then this one, sometimes I like to do a split screen here. So let's say I'm looking at this vertical mullion and I'm done checking this. And I know that the logic and the heights and the markups are gonna give me some clues on what happens on the opposite vertical mullion. So I want to be able to look at these both at the same time. Well, if I go to my unit assembly drawing first, you see I have tabs where both of these pages are open, but now I can split this. And for me, I like to split it vertically. It's easier for me to navigate here. Now I've got my unit assembly drawing on both halves. So I can actually, if I click on that one, that page was already open and it opens it here. Well, now if I click on this one, I can actually look at these 2 verticals side by side. I can do my comparisons, and if I had to do a little fix here for some reason, then I can copy that math, for example, on the other side. So that's a very handy feature to be able to navigate with both sides. But let's say that you have this open. I like to do this frequently too, where I'll have my unit assembly drawing open while I'm working on this vertical, so I can use my dimension strings to help correlate the math as well. But if I wanted to look at the other vertical, for example, and this is open on one side of the screen, I can actually take this and move it over. So by grabbing it by the tab, I can drag it over, and you see how this has got this little symbol, that little tiny triangle that popped up right here. I can actually just drag that onto that side. So I don't have to view this on the same side that I opened it on. I can move it around so that it's just easier for me to navigate within that, that PDF. Okay. One other item, let's say that I'm working on these prototype units. I have my preview pane open, and if I was trying to get a sense of what happened on something that I had previously checked, I'm seeing a unit, I'm going, I think I had a markup similar to that on something already, and I wanted to scroll and just see what that was. So one of the ways that I use that checking these prototype units is I have a roof level unit that has a very specific vertical size, and I have a call out for where my anchor needs to be that I wanted to copy over, but also use that height to get my hook lug height. So that's something that I wanted to verify. Well, when I scroll down to my verticals, if I'm tabbing through, I can actually just tab into the vertical. And let's say that I got to the vertical in question and I saw, oh, I think that's the one, but I'm not quite sure. You can actually just click on this button and then use your wheel and pan around, and you can zoom in the preview window. You don't have to open up this fab if what I'm trying to see is this the one I want? Yes, that's the size I wanted. Okay, what's the markup that I wanted to use there? It's this one here. Okay, cool. So you can actually see that by just selecting this little icon at the beginning, and you can use your mouse wheel to just zoom in on that page. Now, of course, you can make these, if you go full size on this and navigate this way over, you can see a very big version of that page. It looks as big as if you just had it open anyway, where if you were just tabbing through, you can see a lot of what's happening on those fab tickets. But that's just another way if you don't want to have this in full screen because you want to see the thing that you're working on at the moment, or perhaps your window is smaller and your fab tickets looks kind of small. It's just another way to be able to see those. One additional note just about the fabs is that if you go to the wiki homepage and you go to the glass division and go to Bluebeam, there's a frequently asked questions, and there's a bunch of tips in here. So there's how to set up your working environments to make the thing behave like you want it to. It's got some points about working in multiple documents, and then it's got some tips and tricks and some advanced tips and tricks as well. So if you haven't visited this in a while and you're like, I wonder if I could do that, this is a good place to just scroll through the things that we've come up with on our own as we're investigating going through Bluebeam. And it's a wiki page, So if you have one, you're like, oh, I don't see that tip on there. Feel free to just type it in. Okay. In fact, one of the ones that is a good one, let's say you wanted to put this note and you wanted to point it to more than one thing. If you right click on this, select the item with the leader. Select it, right click, go add leader, and then you can point to multiple things with it. I'm not positive if that one's on that advanced tips or not, but that's also a very good tip that we've seen just by watching people the way that they're doing their work. Okay, any questions or comments about the Bluebeam stuff? Anyone's like, oh, there's this thing that I use all the time. Nothing? All right, well, most of you guys have your cameras on, so I could see most of you aren't asleep at least.
Hey, Bill,
That's good.
there's one thing I just thought of that is kind of helpful. I don't know if everybody's familiar with it, but a lot of times, like lately, we've been encouraging pasting in an image for reference, like from the detail or whatever.
Yes.
And we want to cloud that. There's a way you can go in and you can tell it to add a border, and then you can change the line type of that border to be, the Rev Cloud lines. So then it look, because in the past I kind of tried to do that and might paste an image in and then manually draw the cloud around it. But I've found recently that it's easy enough to just tell it to have a border and change the line type of the border.
So if I paste
and then
that
of course
for example,
change the transparency too, so it blocks everything out. That's the other thing.
So you can change the fill to white, for example. You can put
you got to increase the thickness because it defaults to 0.
0, so we'll change that to 1. There we go. Nice. Excellent
and
tip.
then you've got your image. You've got your image and you've got your cloud around it, so you know that it's something that's not normally part of the drawing.
That's a good one because frequently the way I used to do that was just grab my rectangle and throw the rectangle on it. But having that feature built in, it just saves you those extra.
Hey Bill.
Yep.
That's from the Bluebeam, or you use Snippet?
So this is a Bluebeam tool. It's not
Can you do it again?
Yep. So this is a great tool right here. You go to, let's say, your shop drawings. This one is called Snapshot. So snapshot tool. So you can add that into your toolbar. When you select that, you just window around whatever you want to take a snapshot of. So in this case, it's that. And if you watch it, you'll see it flashes. That automatically copies that onto your clipboard. Now, when you navigate over to your PDF and you hit Control V, paste it in there, you've got exactly what you snipped. Now, let's say that's bigger than what you want. You can resize it too. Look at that.
Wait, Bill. Can you also paste that on AutoCAD?
I don't know. That's a good Stump the Checker question. Let's find out.
Yeah.
So here's an AutoCAD drawing.
Not sure if it works.
So there's some random AutoCAD drawing. Let's just do Control V. Hey, look at that. Yes, you can.
That's cool, man.
But I don't think it works the other way too, right? Where it's like you can't snip a thing outside of Bluebeam into the Bluebeam.
Well, that's a Bluebeam tool, so you'd have to use a different tool if you wanted to paste something from, like, use your snip would work, right?
Yeah.
But this particular tool is the snip tool. So yeah, really nice tool. It's very powerful. You can, if you select it, you can resize it. So there, even in AutoCAD, you could just resize it to make it look like what you want it to look like.
Could you trim, like if you were to, like, if we're doing corners on a corner detail and we want to dimension the glass for the corner, could you, like, say, cut a circle from that image that you trimmed and just use the circle, or because usually we have like that circle that leads to the corner, right?
Mhm.
Could you do that with that that snipping tool that you just used? Like change the, instead of using like a square, could you do a circle, or I don't know if it really matters.
So some of these some of the tools do have the ability to change the shape of the box. So
Oh, okay.
like I don't know if that one does, but let's say you had is it a text box that you can do that with? Yeah, with the text box, you see you can change the shape of it. So, and that's available there where it says shape. So let's see if that pops up if we select our image here. I don't see it here, but we can look in properties to see if there's the ability to change the shape on it. I've never tried it, so you stumped me. Woohoo! Yeah!
We got him.
You got him, bragging rights.
We got him.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
We got stumped.
other than Jose, then it's Edgar that stumped you. Or maybe not Jose. Who asked the?
Wait, hold on. Hey, Bill, can you press right here? I want to see what's that.
Okay, so this is just a specific one I was using to create that other. This is okay. This is showing you. Okay, good. Yeah, this is just showing that the snapshot is the one that's actually selected at the moment.
Oh, okay.
So if I cleared out of here, then that should disappear. So then it's just showing me the document. So if I selected this, it shows me that what's selected is the text box.
Okay, cool.
So it's just popping up with what the thing is that you're looking at. But I don't see it as an easy to do option, Edgar, but doesn't say that there's no way that you could do it.
For sure. I bet there's like once you place it onto AutoCAD, you could probably trim it around that using one of the AutoCAD commands or something. I imagine, maybe.
All right, a good stumper. Nice.
Just to add on, like I'm trying the snippet tool. Like I'm snipping something from AutoCAD and paste it into the PDF through Bluebeam. That border that Kuntin just mentioned, it works for like that as well. It doesn't have to be limited to just the snip tool inside Bluebeam.
Nice. Good features.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so that gave us a few additional tips. Any other side notes or completely different topics?
Yeah, I have a question, Bill. When I'm checking and I'm using the project key sheets file, and I need to go to a different sheet to find the unit that I'm looking for, occasionally that sheet just starts blinking back and forth and it's just kind of white with yellow marks for the units, but I can't really see anything in the file. And I just have to close it, and it's just an irritation. Any way around that? Is there?
So let's go to, let me exit this session. And the one you're talking about is if you're in a project's key sheets.
Yeah.
And let's say you're on, oh, that's a tiny one. Let's
go to one west side right there. That it's got a lot of stuff.
So yeah, something, maybe you're here and you want to go to page 25 or something.
Yeah.
And maybe you're scrolling around, and then as you're doing that, it starts to kind of have difficulty rendering, or it'll, like, as I'm just scrolling through these pages, you see that some of the things are flashing first, and then the rest of the page is rendering afterwards. Occasionally this will not render correctly, or it'll start to like pulsate, right? Is that what you're talking about, Chris?
Yeah.
So the only thing that I've been able to do when that happens is just either exit the session and reopen it. That tends to do it. The other one is if you hit the print button, if it's not rendering. So it's similar to what we were talking about with the shop drawings. I think part of why this may happen more frequently on a key sheet type example, you have a lot of added marks that are outside of the actual content of the original PDF, so
Mhm.
that those have the ability to be edited. So you can move them around. Anything can happen to those if there's people that are in there working on those. So that extra processing might be part of the cause of it. But I don't know of any specific solutions except for just
Close and
reopen the
reopen.
document. Yeah.
Are
Okay.
you okay, Jose?
I have
Great.
I have also another one.
Okay.
And this Bluebeam. When you're checking two caches, like for instance, one cache, the old one and the new one, or any unit drawing that you compare, you could open that as a like what you did, Bill, in one session, two split, and you open that one, and then the other one is the different cache, like glass cache. The other one is the metal cache.
Yes.
You just go to view above and go synchronize document, the synchronized document below. When you move one cache, the other one will move the same page, the same area of the cache. See? And it's easy for me to check one by one, side by side.
So that's a great tip, Jose. These are two completely different jobs, but what it's doing, because I'm telling it I want to synchronize it, it's navigating both pages at the same time. So
Yeah.
if you were doing glass and metal keys up at the same time and you wanted to
Go
just
with it.
tab around, that automatically keeps your visual control in the same place.
Even if you zoom one part, that would zoom also the same area.
Yep, awesome, great tip.
Bill, I don't know if you brought this up yet, but there was that one you brought up about if you click on the elevation view, if you click level 1, level 2, it'll bring you to the floor plan.
Yeah, we talked
highlight
about that one in this lesson already.
Okay, cool.
Okay, all right. We're running a little bit out of time, so I'm not going to get into the advanced items, but there is one other thing I wanted to mention. When I have my, let's see, I've got some extra pages here. Let me close this. And I'm just going to open up my Explorer from scratch here. You'll notice that when I open my Explorer, it's set up automatically with 3 tabs. You can set up your Explorer or your Chrome to open up with as many tabs as you want to have on your normal opening as you want. For me, I like to have the portal as the very first one, and it takes me right to the home page. I can keep track of things that are happening. That's how I know when it's everybody's birthday, and I can send them a little note, says happy birthday. And you can also check in and look at the manager's meeting notes from here, for example. The other one is the wiki homepage. So this is kind of an advanced tip, and especially for the PCs. When you pop this open in the morning, take a quick look on the portal, see if there's anything there that has changed, is seeing some movement, catches your attention, makes you think about some particular thing that you're working on. Okay, keep that in mind. And then go to the wiki. On the wiki, the homepage is always the recent changes. So if there's anything that you have the slightest connection to, engineering department meeting notes. Oh, somebody's posted there. Click on it, take a look. What are the new items? Oh, I see that Eric wants to make sure that we're bolting those units. Great, that's a great topic. You have that awareness. You know what's happening, okay? And then the other one is that when you go to your email, read through the daily logs. Look at them to see, are there items that I'm starting to see that are popping up on a frequent basis? Hey, I'm seeing that there's 6 people that marked that they had CAD crashes today. I wonder if they reported those. We should talk about this. So just some advanced lessons is that paying attention to things that are in your normal workday, spending that little bit of focus can give you that awareness of what's happening. And as the project coordinators, you might be able to come up with some solutions based on just paying attention to what's going on around you. So that's I'll make that my last specific tip. And we do have one more minute if somebody else wants to bring up any particular item. All right, well, unmute everybody so I can just know, did you gain something? Was there some value in today's lesson?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
It's hard to stump
Yeah,
you.
that's good, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you.
It's gonna help me get it right.
There you go.
Thank you,
All
Bill,
right.
and
Bill, thank you
for
guys.
everyone else.
Thanks, Bill.
Just
Yeah.
as
I'll call
another
you.
an advertisement reminder, next week, Eric will have the floor and he'll be doing fab tips and tricks.
Yay, shortcuts.
All right.
Nice.
All right, very good.
Thank
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.